let's get the story into South Africa. Today, the country's finance minister, Godongwana, told Bloomberg TV there is only a 10% chance that President Ramaphosa will resign on the back of the Farmgate scandal report. Let's cross now to Johannesburg for a chat with Chris Hart, who is the executive chairman at Impact Investment Africa, on the uncertainty around Ramaphosa's presidency and the state of Africa's most advanced economy. Thanks for coming in on the show tonight, sir. We appreciate it. I'm sure let's start with the issue of the power. You've got to use an alternative energy to conduct this interview with us because Eskom is still doing this rollout on power outages. How tough are things for you on a daily basis with this rolling blackouts in South Africa?
Well, the blackouts have been intense. They are very disruptive for business. Yesterday, for instance, at our office in Sandton, we also didn't have water for the whole day because of water shedding. So the joke is almost like, we're going through load shedding, we're going through water shedding, we're going through road shedding with the potholes, and now we're going through presidential shedding as well. Basically, you could say the country is got a bit of, facing some very, very serious crises, as it were. That ranges literally from the infrastructure that's creaking, to basically the infighting in the presidency. But for small businesses, this has been very devastating. You've got quite a lot of small businesses struggling to keep ahead because of, in some cases, and during the business day, you actually have load shedding, for 2 to 3 hours twice a day, and that then really wrecks the actual business, your business hours in an incredible way. But that also filters through to large businesses. But we are seeing huge efforts for people to actually get some alternative energy, either off the grid or tied to the grid, so that they can actually mitigate the risks for load shedding. And in a sense, the solar business, as it were, is in a boom, because of that. But of course, it's not necessarily overall economic growth. It's really just shifted expenditure, where that expenditure should have gone, to actually build businesses and grow businesses as such. You're actually rather spending it on mitigation efforts.
Well, so let's get back to the political issue. Where are we tonight as we head into the weekend on President Ramaphosa's Farmgate scandal, his political future, as well as how the ANC is weighing into the issues currently to make sure that the country's political situation is well handled?
Well, I think in the ruling party there is a battle royale going on in the background. I think from what we understand, Cyril Ramaphosa already had his resignation speech written out, was ready to deliver it, and there's been additional interventions in the background. The ruling party has an important NEC meeting this weekend, and I think there's going to be a lot that comes out of it. I think if the president holds the NEC, in other words, if he's got the confidence of the NEC, he probably will stay and actually fight and challenge the report that came out, which has, of course, destabilized everything from within the presidency, because he is the front runner to become the next, to be re-elected as the president of the ANC. But this, of course, within the ruling party, there are many factions and enemies and intrigues that is going on. And, his allies are saying that this report was basically set up and that he shouldn't resign because that means the criminals within the ruling party would have won. In other words, the state capture faction, if you like, would have then won. And that would be, of course, distressing. But of course, the actual scandal itself has got a lot of, it's all very well to say the criminals would have won, but the actual scandal itself, right, has criminal fingerprints as well. and that needs to be answered for. And it may well be that his camp, as it were, is just waiting for a better handover possibility than right now.
But again, as we saw this political issue, again, the Farmgate issue is taking a couple of months into investigations and actually into what happened. But the manufacturing sector delivered a stronger jobs data for the month of October, but there was a trade deficit on the flip side of that. How is the economy holding up under the current political environment? What are you learning in the investment and business community, Chris?
Well, basically at the moment, I think the economy is holding up despite politics. And we need to really appreciate that Cyril Ramaphosa as a president actually does help to bolster investment and business confidence. And we could see that with this, the moment there was this report hit, the rand really was hammered hard when it became evident that the president was going to resign. The moment it was evident that he was not going to resign, the rand improved considerably. And that's basically, you could say, the bellwether. Yesterday, the financial stocks, for instance, which is an indication, it's a direct indication of the instability that may well be caused by let's put it this way, a candidate that would hold less confidence in the financial markets, if I could put it that way. If that were to occur, it would hit the financial sector hardest, because that's the sector that's connected with the international economy. And, with the South African grey listing going forward, that becomes an increasing probability that becomes a very hard decision that's absolutely unavoidable without, some confidence, etc. But I think at this stage, the big, it's not just the Farmgate scandal. It's really the fact that there's many scandals that have happened without any apparent legal ramifications. So in other words, a lot of the, and I think this part of the grey listing issue is that, we might have very, very tight and stringent regulations around money laundering, but that's at the rats and mice transactional level. At the really big level, there's been an incredible amount of malfeasance without any, almost without any restraints, during state capture, and even now, during COVID, etc., there was an enormous amount of corruption that occurred with, the most people had to do was step aside. All right, and they're still in the running for top positions in the ANC, despite, being implicated in quite serious scandals.
So Chris, to sum it up, yes, you've got the ESCOM crisis on one hand, you've got the political issue around the Farmgate scandal. Last week, the Reserve Bank delivered a rate hike, the final one for the year. How would that impact South Africans, and again, the whole Ramaphosa's economic reform or renaissance that is pursuing aggressively, including the transition to a clean energy, with which you've got a number of pledges and funds coming into South Africa, supporting Africa's largest emitter to do this transition. What happens to all of this as we see President Ramaphosa fighting for his political life jacket?
Well, basically, the rate hikes of the Reserve Bank trying to catch up with what's happening with inflation. All central banks are behind the curve as far as inflation is concerned, and they've just got to right-size interest rates relative to where inflation is actually shooting. The problem here in South Africa, demand is actually not very high. And so hiking interest rates has a very, very minimal effect on inflation, but you still need to hike the rates so that interest rates are at least in the similar order of where inflation is, and even that might not be adequate. But you can imagine in raising rates where there's a considerable level of over-indebtedness with households and also government, that's going to actually have an impact on the economy going forward. It's going to be a handbrake on the economy, and and the economy isn't really surging at grassroots level. I think there's an energy in the economy that seems to be coming through, and that's, I think, because of people getting out of the lockdown and starting to trying to make things happen again. But that's the macro environment is not helpful at the moment.
Let's leave it there for tonight. Thank you very much. Very insightful from you. We appreciate it as always. Thank you so much, Chris Hart, Executive Chairman at Impact Investment Africa in Johannesburg.